Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty Show. And today we are going to take a little dive into my top 25 2025 rookie class dynasty rankings for Superflex / tight end premium leagues. So we're 6 weeks into the NFL season, and I'm sure some of you have either made the choice by choice or been forced into playing more for the 2025 season now. And so what I'm doing with this video and the previous week's videos on my top 25 rookie class rankings is trying to help you get an idea as to what are the stronger positions in the 2025 class to help you when you're trying to evaluate the values of your first round picks, the early second round picks, those picks that can be difference makers for your squads. And so when we take a look at the 2025 class, let me show you my little here I've got going on. Yes, that is for the 2025 class. You can check this out on my Patreon, patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. This is available to you, just $3 a month to see my rankings. Check it out. Right up top, we've got the two wide receivers holding strong. That's Tet McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, just a beast. Mike Evans comp for him. Luther Burden is a smaller wide receiver, but much more shifty than McMillan. He is more of your Jalen Waddle type, and as you can see, if you watch him play, you will see how electric he is, actually. Then we've got the couple quarterbacks. They're holding strong, Jalen Milroe and Carson Beck from Bama and Georgia. And then our boy up top the running back board, Ashton Genty, just absolutely tearing it up this year. All right. So we had a couple of huge matchups this last weekend. First off, the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes traveled to Oregon to take on the Ducks. And this game lived up to its hype. Came right down to the end. Ohio State's quarterback didn't manage the clock well and couldn't quite get the ball spiked in time in order for Ohio State to attempt a game-winning field goal. So the Buckeyes went down to the Ducks 32-31. Lots of NFL draft prospects in this matchup. We'll start off with a Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State. And he had a huge game that evening. He went 10 for 93 with a touchdown. The two running backs, Travion Henderson, he had 87 yards on the ground on 10 rushing attempts. Quinshon Judkins, not as great of a day on the ground, just 11 carries for 23 yards. He did get into the end zone, though. However, Judkins also added 2 catches for 38 yards. So not if we were doing fantasy here for him, Judkins didn't have a terrible day. But yes, back to Egbuka. He's sort of solidifying himself in this tier 2. If you take a look at the tiers I've got going on so far, generally every year we've got those mid to late first round wide receivers who, if they get it on the right team and it's the right fit, can produce for you right out of the gate, sort of like a Xavier Worthy this past season. Now, Egbuka is not the same type of player as Xavier Worthy. Egbuka is more of your ideal number 2 type, possession type receiver. I'm thinking like a better version of Romeo Doubs. Now, that doesn't sound great considering we're thinking of using him in the first round here. I guess, okay, a better better comparison would be like T. Higgins. Now, is Igbokwe as talented as T. Higgins? I don't think so. All right. But that's, he's got time to develop his game yet. I guess the thing I don't see with Igbokwe is ever being able to be a true number one for a team. Igbokwe's been at the Ohio State University for a while now. I mean, he could have come out last season. And if he was good enough to be a true alpha, I think he would have came out last season. So he's an NFL player. Let's get it straight here. But as far as eliteness, I don't know that he'll ever be able to become a top 10 dynasty asset for you, a top 10 wide receiver in dynasty for you. Now, there are some other electric wide receivers hiding down this list, and I will get to them. But before I do, I want to talk about the dude in the thumbnail. That would be Cam Ward from Miami. Now, Cam transferred from Washington State this past season. I had him way down in tier 6 going into last week, but it's time to move Cam up the board. As you can see I'm doing here, I am going to jump Quinn Ewers. That's right. Quinn has just not been exactly the greatest here so far this season. He did come back last week to take on the Oklahoma Sooners in the Red River rivalry, and he did show up decently for the Longhorns. But again, it just isn't enough to really move the needle for me. And so I am sliding him down to, let's see. I want Travis Hunter ahead of them too. So we're going to move Quinn Ewers down to number 15. Keep him in. Just because he's a quarterback, we're going to keep him in tier 3. But yeah, I haven't seen enough from Ewers to make me believe that he's going to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL, is what it boils down to. Now, could he be a dude like Spencer Rattler, who could make the most of his opportunity? And there we have it. So moved Ewers down to 15. Could Ewers be a guy who makes the most of his opportunity? Obviously, absolutely. But my opinion, I'm not drafting too high on that. This quarterback class as a whole is just not something very inspired by this season. Like I don't want to go into this draft needing a quarterback. I'll just say that. All right. Now, another dude who showed up, and this goes back to the Ohio State-Oregon game, was a wide receiver from Oregon, Evan Stewart. Now, he had not done much up until this game. Stewart was a transfer from Texas A&M. Take a look down my board here. I did have him still on here. Now, he came into the season as a top 15 guy on this board, but just hadn't shown much yet. So I had moved him down here, but this past week he just lit up Denzel Burke, who is a first round rated cornerback from Ohio State. So we're going to move Evan Stewart up the rankings here, back up to number 16. We're going to put him. So ahead of some of the other wide receivers who will just sort of hold serve. All right. And we're basically doing this on the fly because I want to talk through it with you guys so you can understand where and why I'm moving them around the board. Ollie Gordon now dropping to 17. Colston Loveland, the top tight end for Michigan, is at 18. Nick Singleton had a decent game there for the Nittany Lions from Penn State, who took on USC. I believe they pulled that one out. I wasn't watching that game specifically. Let me double check that. Yes, Penn State pulled that one out in overtime. Drew Aller threw a touchdown late to tie things up for Penn State, and then SC just went backwards in overtime and missed the field goal. So all Penn State needed to do to get the win was kick a field goal basically right away, and that's what they did. Let's see. I'm just updating the actual rank here. Kyle McCord will drop to 23, and that would make it all correct. There we go. Don't know that I need to move up anyone else here. Now, I did want to add someone, so I'm going to just throw them in here at, we're going to put them in at 27. And that would be Rocket Sanders, the running back from South Carolina. He had transferred from Arkansas. Rocket Sanders had been a running back who was number one in this class at one point. But now this class just became flooded with the running backs because of both Ohio State running backs coming back to school. Judkins transferred from Ole Miss and went to the Ohio State University. And so they both are there now at Ohio State, Judkins and Henderson, that is, splitting the backfield, which is just crazy because you're going to have two both of these guys are going to get picked by the end of the second round. So you got two studs there at running back. Travis Hunter, of course, the Heisman candidate from Colorado, playing for Deion Sanders at wide receiver and corner, came out this week that he's looking to play both spots in the NFL. So this is something definitely to watch. Which team drafts him? What are their plans on using him? Because personally, yeah, the talent's there. It's pretty obvious when you watch him play on either side of the ball. You can just tell this guy's a stud, and he's going to be a stud in the NFL. However, how much of a stud on the offensive side at wide receiver is he really going to be? I mean, if any of you are old enough to remember watching Deion play, now, Deion didn't play wide receiver at all in college. He was an electric punt returner, but he earned his high grades on the just amazing interceptions he'd make and the returns off of those. And once he left Atlanta in the NFL and went to San Francisco, the Niners decided to deploy him at wide receiver every once in a while. And then the Cowboys did the same thing a year later when he went there in free agency. But he never was a legitimate weekly starter. Like, sure, you could maybe throw him into your flex and hope for a touchdown, but it wasn't like, I think maybe 2 catches was probably the most he ever had in a single game. So that's not something I want to invest high draft capital in with the Travis Hunter. Okay, so just be leery of your excitement, I guess, with Travis Hunter, unless your league is some crazy setup where you're getting all sorts of the defensive points too, which is possible. I just don't know that, again, Travis Hunter profiles as an amazing corner. So in most IDP leagues even, I don't know that Travis Hunter is somebody that's really going to be scoring you points fantasy-wise, okay? He's just going to be somebody, I think, personally, that I may have off my board because he's just somebody that inevitably will be a better in real life player than fantasy player. All right, so let's just double check this one more time before I give it my go. So we've got Again, McMillan, Burden, Milroe, Beck, and Genty up top in Tier 1. Marion Hampton, Sheddier Sanders, Emeka Egbuka, Quinshawn Judkins, and Trevion Henderson in Tier 2. Then Tier 3, we've got Cam Ward moving up to the top of that tier, along with Travis Hunter, Isaiah Bond from Texas, Trey Harris from Ole Miss, Quinn Ewers from Texas, and Evan Stewart now from Oregon. And then the later guys, Tier 4, Ollie Gordon, Colston Loveland, Nick Singleton, the running back from Penn State. Then down to Tier 5, Kyron Lacey, Tez Johnson, and Nick Anderson. So, again, and then I fill in with a few quarterbacks down at the bottom and Rocket Sanders, who just rocketed into the rankings, making his first appearance. That's right. So check these rankings out. Keep an eye on Tier 5, Kyron Lacey. That guy is just screaming up the boards. Wasn't even on anybody's radar really heading into this season as well. So, yeah, we're going to end it with that. Again, you can find this on my – there we go. You can find this on my Patreon, patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. And we will be back next week with our updated weekly Top 25 2025 rookie class Superflex rankings in the Birdhouse. And remember, we never stop working.